About a year ago, Garen and I went out to the Society for Neuroscience, which makes up a multidisciplinary approach to brain research. And at that event, I said, I don't know a fraction of what the people in this room know. But I was brought up in a political family. And I don't know neuroscience, but I know political science. And we need to apply a little political science to neuroscience. And that is the age-old dictum that you're stronger united than you are divided. That working together, we get to go further than if we're going alone. That, individually we'll never accomplish what we can accomplish collectively. And there's another phrase, common sense isn't always common. And what Miles was talking about, everybody both nodded to and in their hearts said, that's true, because it was truthful and basic. And then Stuart made a very good observation, that is, we confuse ourselves later on in life by thinking things need to be more complicated than they really are. We need to get simple about this. First of all, when we passed the mental health parity bill, we had to remind people the brain is an organ in the body, just like every other organ in the body. And that why isn't it the case that insurance companies pay any differently to reimburse for illnesses of the brain as if it weren't an illness of the heart or an illness of any other part of the body? That bill didn't pass till 2008. Okay? When I first got elected to Congress, I was the youngest member from the smallest state in the minority party. But I got the privilege of being the primary sponsor of mental health parity because as it goes in politics, that wasn't a very popular issue. And if you're more senior, you get to put your name top. Well, it fell out on me as the youngest member from the smallest state in the minority party to be the champion of what I consider to be a modern day civil rights fight. And that is, how do we bring in a whole population of Americans who are currently marginalized in our society and discriminated against simply because their illness occurs in the brain as opposed to anywhere else. And that's why I make the analogy that it's about civil rights, because it's an immutable part of the person, just as much as if it were the color of their skin. And why is it that we're making these false distinctions when at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all want the best for our kids, for our parents, for our loved ones. And isn't that the animating spirit? And that's what's so great about Flawless. It comes back to the fact that each of us has the spark of divinity. Okay, we need to treat everybody with respect and dignity. And if we're to do that, we can't let these illnesses marginalize people and put people in a place where they're disrespected. Because none of us would want that either for our loved ones or for ourselves. So why should we want it for anyone else in our society? At that event, I had the honor of looking out in this huge audience of young neuroscientists and say, I see a future of astronauts. We need to put an American flag on every single researcher in this room who's going to do the discoveries that are going to unlock the mysteries of the mind, just like astronauts unlocked the mysteries of outer space 50 years ago. Because the best race to inner space I can think of today is the race to inner space to unlock the mysteries of the mind and decode these incalculable mathematical equations that are simply so complex until now. Now we have the imaging capability, like the telescope, to peer in through PET scans and fMRIs to look at the brain. Now we have the computing capability to be able to amass all the little pieces of information that are going to mean something when someone's able to amass and put an algorithm together to show how they interrelate and connect. And now we have the genome, which gives us the roadmap to what to look for. The only thing that's missing is the willpower. And I'd like to tell you that it'd be great if the will politically was behind people with autism, but it's not. I'd like to say that the will is behind people with Alzheimer's or schizophrenia or depression or you name it. But today the will can be, if appropriately garnered, around our American servicemen and women whose signature wound of this war is traumatic brain injury and PTSD. Now, why is it important that we go to try to save these veterans. Because not only are they there to try to save us from other 9/11s, so we have a moral obligation to be there for them, but because they're going to be our freedom fighters once again. And just as they stood up for freedom overseas, they're going to come home, and when we make it our priority to save them from being prisoners of their war injuries and map out the basic science that's going to allow us to find answers to their traumatic brain injury and PTSD, they're going to help provide the inspiration and the way for us to do all that science, just like the moonshot provided the science 50 years ago. And they're going to be the ones that give us the money and the national security impetus to do this. Understand, we went to the moon because of national security. We built the national highway system in our country because of national security. We need a highway system that's going to connect all of us scientifically and politically so that we're not trying to take back roads to get to our location, but that we're all in the fast lane of this superhighway that we build together so that all of our exits, whether it's schizophrenia, whether it's autism, whatever it is, depression, addiction, those exits are going to appear in our view a lot sooner if we're taking the interstate highway together as opposed to all of us going our own back roads.